to, let me call it the practical part of lecture 1.1. That is, I want to welcome you to economic analysis, and I want you to understand how this course works so that you can succeed and do quite well. And I think it's complex, but it's not complicated. You have to think about the process that's being put together here and how you can navigate through. And that's what I want to kind of help you with right here. So these are numbers from fall 2023, and it talks about how much time you're going to have to put in to do the course. And as you can see, um, it's not so bad in the sense that while people are saying, okay, two people said they spent 6 to 8 hours per week, uh, and you think, well, it's an online course, I shouldn't have to spend that much time. What you are replacing is 3 hours of classes per week. You're replacing maybe 2 hours of transit time, walking, driving, parking, things that take you away from doing other things because you're in process of getting to class. And of course, you can't just sit in the class. You have to spend a couple of hours of study time. And what does that work out to be? It's 7 to 8 hours per week. So this online study takes a little bit of mindset difference, but the time is not really much. The key is to dedicate at least that much time each week. Maybe you won't need it. And here's my guess. In the beginning, you're going to need every minute of it. But as you sort of get into it, you start understanding, I, I, I think you'll roll through much faster. And these are just remembrances of students who finished the class, of course, and they did quite well. By the way, you notice 30% of the students got A's. It would have been much higher if they didn't fall behind and if they did all the work. A substantial number of students every term decide, well, I'm not turning this one in, or I can get by without that one. And inevitably, they end up in the C's, D's, and F's. Don't do that. Get the work done. Make a schedule and keep to it. Okay. A little bit about me. Very little you can see from the pictures. I'm just going to point out quickly. I'm very very much into scouting. I'm very dedicated to my work. I'm an assistant council commissioner at the Great Trail Council, which puts me in a position to influence all the units in our 7 county area. And I really love that. I was a scoutmaster for 25 years. And I also was the first professor at the University of Akron to not only do an online class, which is this one, but to put on the first economics data science day. So that occurred. And that's one of those pictures there. And not only am I powered by coffee and the wonderful program SAS, which if you know about it, you do. If you don't, you don't. Um, and I've got 8 grandkids. That's really my life right there. Okay. You have 2 textbooks to download. I'm just showing them to you quickly. You've seen them in the syllabus. Uh, you would uh, uh, quickly come upon the links in the introduction to Module 1 that we'll talk about also here in a second. And you'll get a chance to download or bookmark those so that you can always use them. Okay, so in the case of economics in one lesson, we're going to start using this book now. As soon as you finish Module 1, which is due on Tuesday of this week, so when you submit Module 1, start immediately on number 2 because you have to read this whole book. Okay, not the whole book, but a good substantial portion of it. The good news, chapters are really small. They're really quick. Bad news, if you want to think of it that way, they're deep and they're complex, but they're written in a way that you can clearly understand. Now, I recommend that you don't download the version that you see there on that on the screen when you go to this website, uh, but that you read it online because it's all there. You have to kind of scroll down to see it's all there. Now you can download, but be careful because there's different versions. One download will be in an old type font, the original text, and oh, while that's historically nice, it's a whole lot more comfortable to read the modern typeface that is also there and part of the website. So we're gonna we're gonna do that. You're gonna read 3 chapters and the details. You'll see which those 3 are, and then you can choose one more chapter to read, and that's going to be the subject of your writing assignment that's due next Tuesday, the second Tuesday of the term. And then we'll set this book aside, kind of. We'll never go back to it directly, but we're going to set it aside and then get into the regular textbook. Why am I doing this? Because it provides a fantastic base for which to learn economics. And also, one thing I'll give away is it tells you that the economic principles are timeless. They're not, oh, well, hey, we got different economics now that Trump is president, or we had different economics when Biden was president, or Obama economics, or Nixonomics, if we go that far back. No, what you're confusing there is the political and how it interacts with economics, not economic principles. The principles are rock solid. They don't change. The actual textbook that we're going to be using is from OpenStax. It is a free textbook, and uh, it's as good as a lot of the other books. Now, this course you may have seen someplace. I get confused where I have told you things or written things, but certainly in the syllabus it says that originally this was based on a different textbook, and some of the materials are still there. Um, uh, that textbook right now is $300. I don't, I can't have you do that. There's not $300 worth of value, I think, there. This one's free and it's very good. I actually went to school with one of the authors. Now, this course is 22 years old. It's 100% online since 2023. I am not one of the professors that was dragged kicking and screaming into teaching online during the pandemic because, oh my gosh, we couldn't be in classrooms and we had to separate from everybody. No, I was well prepared. And this course is designed for the web. That's why it might be a little bit different than things that you see. The easy thing to do is to go into your classroom notes, digitize them, throw them online, and say, here, students, have at it. And what I'm doing is feeding you the same way I would if you were in front of me in person. Well, that's ridiculous. Online courses should be built for online audiences, and that's what this one is. It respects you as an online student, and that it doesn't try to port everything that you would have seen from the classroom. It would have been really easy for me to uh, videotape my lectures even 20 years ago or 15 years ago, or do it every 10 years and then just throw those videos on there for you to see. But I don't think you would get as much value as the way this is designed. It is designed for you today and online. Now, there are no meetings required. It's 100% online. Now, if you score low, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, I'm going to force an intervention. And we'll talk about what that means. But there's really not going to be any interaction between you and I other than email, and that's going to be a lot of email, weekly emails. Um, but uh, there's going to be some time where maybe you just didn't do well, and I can't let you go forward because this course is a course in mastery and economics. One of my professors, when I was an undergraduate, told me economics is like a snowball rolling downhill. It just keeps getting bigger. The core never changes. The snowball just keeps getting bigger as we add more and more. Well, what happens if you don't really get the core? And let's just call the core, for lack of a better sense here, modules 2, 3, and 4. If you don't do well on modules 2, 3, and 4, you have no hopes in this class. You just can't go on. It's like taking a course in calculus and not being able to get past limits or derivatives or whatever, pick something. How can you go do the advanced stuff and understand it? You might be able to score in the C range, but you're never going to really understand. So I want to be really tough at the very beginning, and I hope you're tough on yourself to get ahead and do very, very well. Now, I don't want to do interventions. This course is designed so I do not have to do interventions. In fact, this course is designed that I have minimal contact with those who do very, very, very well. Um, why? Because it's mastery. If you master it, you move on. You must, by the way, log into your course at least every 2 days. You may get an email from me and says you haven't logged into your course for a week. Well, that'll be disastrous, I can guarantee you, if that's the case. Now, almost all the contact with me is through email, and there's my email address. And the primary way that we're going to be reacting is learning assessments. I'm going to talk a whole lot more about those. Yes, you're going to need to use MS Word. If you do not have MS Word, you're going to have weekly access to MS Word. Either go buy it, download it, uh, find another computer where you can always access it on a Tuesday when it's due. I don't care, but you have to use MS Word, and I'll come back to that in a bit. So you're emailing those forms to me, and I'm going to respond in kind by email. That means we're going to communicate every week. We're going to have a back and forth. A couple minor exceptions. I'll talk about those as we move on. Now, when you email me, I'm going to give you a required subject. Now, in the learning assessments, it's very big and bold, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But if you just decide today to email me and say, "Hey, I was listening to your lecture and I had a question," or uh, "Hi, how are you? I I want you to know this thing." Please use this subject heading because I have my email set up with the filters, and it will grab it and it will throw it into the course file, and I will guarantee you I will see it. Now, if you don't use that subject, or you use no subject, or you use your play email or your business email instead of your University of Akron email, I may miss it altogether. And I don't guarantee that even if I find it, I'll respond. So play my little game, put the tagline in there, and we'll both be very happy. Now, if we have to contact, we can use the MS Teams. There is a link on the home page, but basically by arrangement, if you want or need to be in MS Teams, or if I want you to be in there so that you and I can talk face to face, we'll set that up by email, and we'll put appointment together and come together. Never call my university office phone. 2 reasons: I don't ever use it, and I'm almost never in my office. Now, what is required in this course? Weekly, formally required contact points. There'll be 12, actually, I think it's 13 learning assessments that are emails by you, and there are 3 writing assignments. And if you add that up, that's 15 weeks. So something due every single week. This course is available 24/7. It's designed in modules, which, the course management system Brightspace has made some big changes this spring, at least as far as I'm concerned as a content creator. And I noticed some of their language creeping in. What I call a module, the design people call a unit. Um, I don't get hung up in that. I'm organizing my content by modules. They're numbered almost sequentially. They're not. There's no module 5, there's no module 10. You'll see that as you go through. But due dates and closure dates are strictly enforced, and we'll get to that. So the first assignment is learning assessment is due for module 1 Tuesday of week 1, uh, which, depending upon when you're watching this, it's probably either tomorrow or today, or sadly after that point, but you shouldn't go that far. I need you to submit that form, and we'll talk about how to submit it here in this lecture. Now, when we get to module 2A, because yeah, there's a 2B. Uh, so Module 2A is a writing assignment. Anytime you see that A, that's a writing assignment, and it's based upon the book. We've already talked about that. And it starts Wednesday of week 1, and the essay is due Tuesday of week 2. And I strictly enforce due dates, so please make sure that you don't fall behind. Um, Look, I was in school. I remember you come in week 1, and you don't have to really get started for a week or two because, well, there's a whole lot of those unconscionable professors out there that do nothing but cover the syllabus on day 1, and then they take 2 or 3 days to get wound up and started, and it's like week 3 before you do anything important. By week 3, we will have had 3 turned in assignments. Remember, this is designed for the web. It is not a classroom experience. Don't let your classroom experience bias what you think this course is like. Uh, it hits hard every single week. Now, if you think about Module 1, it's due on basically the first day of class. I mean, as soon as you see the assignment, you ought to finish it. That just gets it out of your way, even if it's Monday, and and that's fine. There is not a lot of work in Module 1, but it is a substantial thing that you have to get done in order to understand the whole course and to be ready for the real first module, which is graded, and that's Module 2A. After that, we start modules 2B, 3, 4. See, there's no 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's no 10, and all the way through module 15. 11 through 15 are the modules on macroeconomics. The modules from, you could argue maybe 6 through 9 are on microeconomics, and 2B, 3, and 4 are really foundational. All right. So I mean, again, as mentioned before, if you're not really understanding what's going on in 2B, 3, and 4, you're gonna have a hard time of it. Now, when we look at these quiz-based modules, we'll call it, because there's a quiz in all of these modules. There's no quiz in module 1, there's no quiz in module 2, but by module 2B there is. Uh, each quiz is based on 2 to 4 chapters, and each has 2 parts. Now, there's a 10-item quiz, and you get to repeat it 3 times. It's due by 11:30 p.m., by the way. That's universal. All the quizzes are due at 11:30 p.m. If you ever find an exception to that, email me because it's probably a mistake. It's Tuesday at 11:30 p.m. That's just what's got to be in your head. That's when things have to be finished. Now, as soon as you finish that third item, and this is the second part, you're going to do the required learning assessment, and that's due by 11:59. Now, is it going to take 30 minutes to fill it out? No, probably not. But it's just to give you, give you every second if you need it to get that third quiz done by 11:30, and it then gives you a little bit of time to fill out the form and move on. Now, Module 2A, 7A, 15A has that A on it. Those are all writing assignments. About 25% of your total points in this class are going to be from writing, not counting the weekly writing learning assessment assignments. I'm not grading those. I do in the summer, but that's a different thing. Uh, I'm not grading those, but you're making an impression on me and you're making an impression on yourself. Learn to learn by being able to write. I cannot emphasize how important that really is. If you do not write well on your learning assessments, you're probably not going to write well on your required written assignments, and you're not going to do well in this class. I will not suffer poor construction of ideas. You have to make sure you write for understanding. Now, there are some bonuses, and they actually work pretty cool. They add to your final total percentage. So if you've got a 90 average, so you're going to get an A minus, but hey, you did a couple of bonuses, and you got a total of 2 points. Wow, I did two bonuses, only got 2 points. Yeah, but now you got a 92 and you got an A, not an A minus. So bonuses are really good, but they're not assigned, they're not announced, and they're hidden in the course. Some are kind of hidden in plain view, but if you've got to look for them and you've got to take the time to do them. That's it. Now, when you come into the course in the home page, you're going to see this, and this is the view that I believe you see. Please understand, I'm limited sometimes by the fact that what I see as a content creator is not what you see as a student. So I'm not trying to lead you astray or show you something old or whatever it might be, although that latter could happen from time to time. What I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, this is what I think you're seeing. And I do know that you'll see the heading. Notice that on here, there's some quick references. The syllabus link is there, even though I'm going to make you open it again if you open it from there in the module number 1, because I want to know you saw the syllabus. But if you sometime during the course need to come back to the syllabus, it's always on the home page. So when you log in, there it is. The printable calendar is extremely important. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then the other ones are resources for you. What are the learning objectives being tested in each quiz? So when we go to module 6, what are we testing? The list is right there. And how hard is each quiz? And you can see that as well. It'll tell you about it, um, and so forth and so on. There are a requirement for you is always to start at content. Please don't go to assessments to find your assignments or your quizzes or whatever and skip the content. The order in this course is very important, and sometimes there are things hidden from your view until you actually do them in the right order. So always go into content, and I'll open that up here in a second. You can see what that looks like. Now, staying on track is really, really important. And the way you stay on track is to understand the calendar. Well, there's two calendars. Now, when there are two calendars, there's a chance for them to disagree. The calendar that rules is the printed calendar, which is reflected in the note there with the big solid circle. It is accessible in the printable calendar. And then there's the digital calendar. Now, the digital calendar you're going to want to rely on. But I'm telling you right now, there could be some things wrong. It's up to you to make sure that the printed calendar and the digital calendar are the same. If you see an exception, it's a mistake on my part. Email me, I'll fix it. So, but the digital calendar, when it agrees with the printed calendar, is pretty good. And you'll see right there, the first assignment is due January 14th. The second assignment's due January 21. It's right there in upcoming events. So when you look at the calendar, there are two different things in here that I want to talk about right off, and that is the due date, which is always Tuesday. So module 1, uh, it says quiz and learning assessment due. That's bad on me because there is no quiz in module 1. Sorry about that. Um, I copied them all, and as I went through, I forgot to take the word quiz out of the January 14th due assignment, but that's the due date. And if you look, every Tuesday there's a due date. So that's when, and I even have another mistake there. It says when module 2 is to be completed. No, that's when module 1 is needed to be completed. We needed to drop down if we were going to do that. Sorry, but I think you can figure this out. Um, so every Monday a module becomes unavailable, and that is the second one, the closure date. So you actually have access to finish Module 1 until the 20th. You can finish Module 2A until the 27th, but you are not allowed to go into that time period. That is a grace period, but it's a grace period for me, not for you. You have to have my written in permission to go beyond that date. It's got to be a good reason, and I don't ever want to give you permission. Why? This week, I'm going to be looking at least 60, 70 emails from students responding to them. And you may be one of those who score low, and I'm going to have to get back to you on the 16th or 17th and say, well, there's no quiz there. But if there were, I would get back to you and say, well, we need to do something. Uh, the module's still open. You can go back in with my permission and get some things done before the next module starts. So stick to the due dates, please. Here's what the calendar looks like. Of course, there's a May, but doesn't fit on the calendar very well. So one of the things we want to talk about is um, if you look at these, there we go. I think that's all of them. Yep, that's all of them. Um, I didn't do that step in very well. My apologies. Notice the yellow is 3 writing assignments. So here we are back on January 14th. There's an assignment due. And if you look in the big red boxes, that's when the assignments are due. They're all due on Tuesdays. Now, there's a little bit of variance in the last week, and there's one little box sitting out there on January 25th, which is a Saturday, and that's a due date. Now, I'll talk about it separately because that's a point of confusion for students. So anyway, 14 uh, is when we finish module 1, and then you immediately start. There's the yellow territory. You immediately start the essay assignment for module 2A, which is due on the 21st. No learning assessment because it's a writing assignment. And then on January 22nd, you immediately start module 2B. Now, when I say immediately, you know, you manage your own time. Just know when the deadlines are and the due dates and get ahead of them. Understand this. Until you do a couple of modules, you will not have any idea how much work it's going to be for you to get through them. That's why I recommend you start on Wednesday. If you start on Wednesday and you get ahead and you go, well, this is kind of easy, I've got this in hand, then you can work on your other courses and stuff and manage your time. But if you wait until Tuesday to open up the module, you've got no hopes of completing it. There's just way too much work um, there. All right. So keep that in mind. Um, so let's look at the course content. Now, this is what my view says your view looks like. And I want to, it says back to content up the top. When you start at content, you're going to go, there's another screen that says, let's get started. You're going to you're going to see this kind of screen. And it says up there the name of the course, sections 501, 502 combined, and it says unit 1 of 20. Oh, that's a lie. Um, there are not 20 modules. There's exactly what I tell you in the calendar. Um, there are some content hidden that'll never be used that I'm just storing in this class and it gets counted. So don't let that bother you. Now the circle says I've completed 11 of 12. That's because I've actually gone through and I've opened all these up and taken a look and make sure that they're ready for you. And we start off with module or lecture 1.1. And here we are in lecture 1.1 part 2. So you've already been through it. Now, there's a whole listing of things here. And then as we go through it, we get down to the very bottom and it says this module is complete when you've completed the learning assessment. There it is. So let's talk about what the learning assessment is. It is always the last step unless the module is a writing assignment. So it's always the last step and it looks like this. Now, it is a word form and please don't start filling it out in this window. This is kind of what you're seeing. Don't fill it out in this window. It's not going to work for you. It's going to be a time waster for you and for me. So this is like say the last step. And if you don't see a learning assessment, it's because there are release conditions that you do not get to see. Those conditions are, it's like programming code that says, well, if the student looked at lecture 1.1 and looked at lecture 1.1 part 2 and looked at lecture 1.2 and looked at the Milton Friedman video and whatever that list is, then this will appear. So rest assured, if there's not a learning assessment at the end, and it's not a writing assignment, the reason is you didn't look at all the content. So you need to go back and figure out what it is that you missed. Now, the very first step in this is download the form. Now, I notice there's two downloads. I can't operate the system as a student. I assume they do exactly the same thing. Maybe they don't, but the whole idea is to download the window that you're seeing, the word form. And I assume the download I circled is the right one to do. But you download it and save it to your computer. So you can see at the first arrow there, there's instructions right in the middle. And it says, once you download the file to your computer, now you can fill it out. Don't fill it out online. Don't fill it out in your browser. That's very important. Fill it out in Microsoft Word. So you open it up in Microsoft Word, and not an alternative. It's not going to work. This is proprietary to Microsoft. Open it up in Microsoft Word and then complete the form. And you get a taste of the form down at the bottom. You click on there and a calendar opens up. You pick the date. You then can type in your name. You can tell which module and answer the various questions. So it's kind of like a little survey at the end, and it says basically how did you do in this module? Uh, what questions did you miss on your test, if there is one? There is in module one, of course. And what kind of questions do you have for me, and what kind of comments do you have to the questions I ask you? It won't take you long, but it uh, does require you to kind of reflect on what's going on. Once you fill it out on your computer, not in a browser, on your computer in Microsoft Word, save it as a Word document. It's a DOCX extension. Save that as a physical file on your computer. Do not save it in the cloud. University tries to push you in that direction. Some of the faults of the software push you into cloud direction. Cloud is wonderful, but I will never read anything that you link to me from your cloud. Just won't happen. You have to save it as a physical file. You have to attach that file to an email it to me, use that subject exactly, E244 www spring 2025 module 1 assessment by George Smith or whatever your name is. Importantly, never send me the form as a PDF. Now I tell you that because the requirement for every other writing assignment in this class is you have to submit it in a PDF form. All right. And that's because of the way the software is set up and its ease of grading. I can grade a PDF form a whole lot better than I can all the others, but not these learning assessments. Send them as native Microsoft forms. Why am I so picky? Well, form follows function. These don't work if you don't do it exactly the way I do, and I will reject it. And I will waste your time because I won't waste mine. If you don't follow these and you send me a link to the cloud, a PDF form, an empty form, whatever, you're going to get rejected and you will not be able to move on in the course until you fix that rejection. Hence, log in every day, or at least look to see if you have email every day and log into the course on a regular basis. The second thing is I have a minimum of 800 emails this term to read, evaluate, and respond to, and that does not count the writing assignments, which is about 180 of those. I don't have time. Okay. What are the pressure points in this course? There's a fast and busy start. Why is it fast? There's a module due on day 2. And I will get emails from some of you going, "Oh, I didn't know that because I didn't even look at the course until," well, that's on you, but it puts you in a bind right away. Also, there's a writing assignment which requires you to read a substantial portion of that book in week 1 and so forth. And then the first technical quiz is due on day 16. So in the first 16 days, we're going to do a lot of stuff. Then there's this long, steady routine that we're going to get into, and that actually kind of reinforces itself. But if you get sick or you have midterms and you have other things going on, um, it's up to you to manage your course and manage your time so that you can do it. And then a lot of things come due in the very last week. Module 15, 15A, and 16 are all due at the end, and 15A is basically a term paper. It is a substantial piece of work, and it's graded that way as well. Now, there's a lecture following this one. It's not mine, it's a YouTube video on how to kill procrastination. And I think it's useful to at least you think about procrastination and how you can get away, because procrastination will kill you in this course. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. Well, that's it. I'll see you in lecture 1.2.